Hey gang, Rick here. I've tried to keep quiet and not add to the noise, but I just never can keep my mouth shut for long, so I'm going to get up on my soapbox for a few minutes and say some things about stereotyping, racism, and assumptions. Looking at the current headlines as we go into June of 2020, we have more high-profile cases of police brutality. If we can take the videos and statements from witnesses at face value, the basic facts about George Floyd's death seem clear. A police officer with 3 of his fellow officers in arm's reach killed a defenseless man, unarmed, in public, in broad daylight, over matters that are unquestionably not capital offenses. Not that it was his job to kill the man even if they were capital offenses, but that's what it boils down to. To make it worse, 3 other police officers not only stood by while he did it, but threatened violence against bystanders who tried to intervene. I'll talk about race in a minute. Before I do, I want to say a few words about cops. Having been on, let's say, various sides of the law on my long and twisting path, I've met a few over the years. Even when I was in fact guilty of some offense, I've never encountered or even witnessed the brutal treatment we saw in Minneapolis on May 25th. At other times, when I needed their help, I got it and was grateful. I get along with them fine as long as I'm not doing stuff that's causing other people problems. Yeah, you can take one look at me and say it's easy for me, that I'm probably at far less risk than George Floyd was, and you'll be right. I want to discuss that further, but first I want to say a little bit more about cops. I have a close friend here in Chattanooga. His name's Jared Hamilton, who's an officer with the Chattanooga Police Department. We've been like brothers since I moved in next door to him and his family in 2007. To me, Jared is an example of the good cop. He has the heart of Batman. He's strong, brave, honest, and fiercely protective of any vulnerable people who are being threatened by anyone. I don't like seeing men and women like him getting lumped into the same basket with cops who shouldn't be cops. Throwing rocks, burning down police stations, and yelling obscenities at the police in general isn't going to help. This looks the same as blaming any entire group for the bad actions of some of its members. Hey, you know what? I'm angry too. But let's not take our anger out on the wrong targets. Go after the system, not the people. The demonstrations and protests are necessary and effective, but they can be civil. Why alienate potential allies? We can find better ways to channel that energy. I don't know how to fix racism as it relates to law enforcement or anything else, but I've learned a few things about prejudice and stereotyping. It's easy for anyone to look at me and say I've got it easy and I'm less likely to be treated unfairly by the police and maybe society in general. Gray-haired, male, Caucasian. Which stereotypes can I fit into? Baby boomer? Yeah, technically, although I'm probably more of a Gen X in real life. A privileged white guy? Maybe, if you consider privilege to be what we otherwise refer to as basic human rights. Conservative? Liberal? What do those even mean? And the answer is neither and both. A Christian maybe? No, but good guess. I've caught open hostility from people in other ethnic groups who knew nothing about me but my appearance. I've also met other people who look superficially like me that assumed I'm a good old boy who would appreciate hearing their favorite racial jokes. They were wrong, but why do you suppose they thought it was okay? I'll tell you what I think. They were stereotyping based on assumptions. It's an easy trap to fall into, I think, for any of us, and I know I've done it myself. But why do we do it? Our evolution, or creation if you prefer, has given us the ability to quickly identify threats and take action to protect ourselves. We have the tendency to see, or think we see, a couple of things that we've been conditioned to think are important and instantly extrapolate that tiny bit of information into a threat profile and a visceral, physical, and potentially violent response. We don't even have to think about it. We feel it in our guts before we have a chance to think. Sometimes that's exactly what we need. Fight, freeze, or run away. Notice that all 3 of those possible responses come from one thing, and that thing is fear. Hey, that's fine if we're afraid of being eaten by a tiger. It's not fine when we're reacting to fears that aren't real. Fears that we've let other people put on our heads. Witches, demons, aliens, ghosts, pagans, foreigners, and them, the others. History shows that we sometimes take this to ridiculous extremes, and with the advent of social media spreading ignorance at the speed of light, it may be getting worse. There are elements in our society who will continue to exploit our survival mechanisms to promote any number of shady schemes. Some of them are relatively harmless, product marketing for example, and some are actually dangerous. This tendency to stereotype and pigeonhole other people goes beyond racism. It extends into sexism, ageism, and other isms that put groups of people on opposite sides of some arbitrary line and encourage us to fight each other. The issue here is that our attitudes about other people are based in large part on assumptions. You might have had that high school teacher who told you never to make assumptions and wrote on the board, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Okay, it's a handy acronym to remind us, but I've found that assumptions are necessary and I can't get through a day without them. Just try it sometime. If I have to be 100% sure about every little thing before I act, I'll be paralyzed. Think about it. The trick is to be aware of our assumptions when we're making them and be mindful of what the consequences could be if we're wrong. I have this tendency to periodically fall victim to my assumptions. I'll get off on a rant over something that's usually not very important anyway, climb up onto a teetering stack of assumptions, then fall off of it and land on my ass with my foot in my mouth. Fortunately, the worst thing that usually happens is I look like an idiot and some other person gets to say, "Dude, you're an idiot." Unfortunately, sometimes our assumptions about other people can be dangerous, to us and to them. Assumptions, I suggest, are a big part of all these isms that get us humans into trouble. Racism, sexism, ageism, prejudice. We have a tiny bit of information, often false, about some other group or group of people, and it misleads us into bad behavior. Try to think critically when you feel yourself getting upset about what other people are doing or might be doing. This can help with people of different ethnicities, different political beliefs, different spiritual beliefs, different age groups, all of those categories that we use to divide ourselves from others. Here's a little exercise. Next time you're walking down the street, watching the news, reading through your Facebook feed, or whatever, look at the people and pay close attention to how you feel in your guts. You see Caucasians, you see Africans, you see Asians, you see Hispanics, you see people in MAGA hats, Biden hats, old people, young people, big people, small people, people. The first time you see the face of a stranger and get any surge of negative emotion, focus on it. Take a big deep breath and let it out slowly. Then ask yourself, what did that person, that specific person, ever do to me? Chances are the answer is going to be absolutely nothing ever. Next, ask yourself, where did that negative emotion come from? It's probably borrowed and has nothing to do at all with that person. It may also be completely false and not even apply to whatever group of people we might think they belong to. So what can we do? We can work on ourselves. It's easy to just roll with the emotional tide, venting our fear and anger. It's harder but more rewarding to think critically and question our own beliefs. Examine and question our assumptions about other people and situations, especially the negative ones. We all need to calm down, lighten up, look ahead, and get back our manners. That's all I got for now. Y'all be safe.